Hi, Standers. This is Sheila Hollinger with Marriage Revealed Ministries. So glad to be with you today. I didn't think I was going to be able to do a video for another month or so because our dog just had puppies, an unplanned thing, but it happened. And yeah, it's been keeping me very, very, very busy. So I'm really glad that I was able to get a break from that and just be with you today. So the message that I want to bring today is called, Are You Stuck in Your Head? And it's a term that I grew up with. Sometimes people will say, Are you in your feelings? Or it's basically a distraction. So let me explain what this is. It's when you are just in a whirlwind of questions. Are you being an enabler? Are you doing it right? Are you praying enough? Are you this or are you that? Is your spouse a narcissist? Is your spouse suffering from rejection? It's just a series of questions, one right after the other. And all of your focus, all of your attention is on these questions. All of your energy is going into this area. And you don't even realize that what you're trapped in, what you're snared in, is you are anxious, you're worrying, right? It's all being driven by maybe fear, by maybe impatience, but there's something that's driving it that is not what God wants you to be driven by. He wants your attention on Him. Philippians 4:6 says, Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. What it does not say is do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, try to figure out what's going on. Does not say that, right? And there's a reason that it doesn't say that. Because if you are driven to figure out what's causing your fears in that kind of way, instead of taking it to God and resting in Him and letting Him bring the answers to you. I'll tell you right now, every time I had a real pressing place where I was in my head trying to figure it out, and I was driven to figure things out, I never came up with the right answer. It was always when I got my attention onto God, I was trying to like take a break. And I'm not going to worry about what my husband's doing and why he's doing it. I'm not going to worry about if I'm doing things wrong. I'm not going to worry if it's a root from his childhood, or I'm not going to wonder if my friend was right when she told me this. When I got out of that place and just said, you know what, God, it's just going to be me and you today, and I'm just going to focus on you with prayer and petition and let you speak to me when you are ready, because I'm ready, right? Because a lot of times what would happen is if I figured something out in that desperation place that I was in, I always acted out of there. I always did whatever action, and it was always wrong. Like if I felt like God said, "Oh, this is what's going on," I sometimes would run to my husband and tell my husband, "Oh, well, you have this issue or this is going on," or I wouldn't say anything to him, but I would try to fix it by correcting my behavior to correct his behavior. So that's why a lot of times God zipped his lips. And he's like, I'm not telling her what's really going on because she's going to act wrong out of this. He waited for me to settle down, to get out of my head, to get out of my feelings, to get out of my fear, to get out of my striving, to get out of this whirlwind place that I was in. And sometimes I get that with standards. They will send me messages, emails, and it's just all over the place. And I'm like, is there a question here? I'm so confused because you're sharing so many different details. And then it dawns on me, wait a minute, they're in a whirlwind. They're in a crazy, chaotic place in their mind. And then when I'm starting to read what's going on, I get sucked up in that whirlwind as well, and that's why now I'm confused. So I get it. I'm understanding better. I'm like, okay, they need to chill. They need to settle down. They need to get their eyes off of the millions of questions and torment. It's a torment, right? That you're going through, and you don't even realize sometimes that you're going through that torment. And it can keep going. You could be in that place for days, and then sometimes, and this is really true for so many, because I remember I went through it. Sometimes it's the whirlwind, the chaos, the torment that gets you to a breaking point where you say, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. And you blame it on the spouse. But to be honest, the whole point of you wanting to be done was because you couldn't take the torment of this swirling, chaotic, crazy that you got yourself into. And it's because you didn't realize where you were at. You didn't realize where you had gone because you were trying to figure things out. It's like, okay, if I could just figure out why they're doing this so I can counteract with me changing, or me doing this, or just me understanding. Sometimes we just need to let it go. We just need to let it be. We need to trust God that whatever's going on, it's in his hands. And that's sometimes what we do, is we try to figure things out because we don't like how God's handling it anymore. We don't like the timing of everything, and we're like, "You know what? I'm going to take it back." And sometimes this is a pattern in our life that we've always lived by, where we just see something broken and we're going to fix it, and then we're in an uproar, we're just in chaos, and we're striving and we're running around, just crazy, trying to figure things out. We haven't learned how to control ourselves. We haven't learned how to manage ourselves. And so these are great things to recognize about yourself, why you're in the state of confusion and chaos, and let God deal with you. Let God teach you how to put it on his shoulders, which is where it's supposed to be, and where God has been trying to get you. Our loving Father has been trying to get you to give up that control, give up that place of fear, give up that impatience. This is all part of trusting him. And so you need to sit down and you need to be like, Lord, I really struggle with constantly handing it to you, taking it back, handing it to you, and grabbing it back from you, or not even handing it to you. Like, I know I should, but I just can't. And you need to figure it out and say, Lord, I just need to know why. Why am I such a fixer? Is it fear that drives me? Is this lack of trust, lack of understanding who you are, lack of wanting to give it to you? Sometimes it's the fear of, you know what? I don't believe God wants my marriage restored. I don't believe God's going to do this. So I'm not handing this to him because I don't believe that he's going to help me. Sometimes it's that. And we don't even realize that we want God to help us, but we're not convinced that he wants our marriage restored. And there's a lot of issues, or a lot of factors that go into why. Maybe this isn't your first marriage, right? Maybe your husband or wife is that you're their second wife or second husband, right? And so that is in the back of your mind, and you've always got this doubt. I can't answer that for you. God needs to be the one that answers that. If that is what's going on in your mind and in your heart, was that this was never supposed to be your spouse, then you need to clear that up with God before you even ask him about marriage restoration. Some situations where you go in and get married and you've got children with another spouse, there's all these factors, right? And it's robbing your peace. I cannot answer. I can tell you what I think. You could have 5,000 people tell you what they think, but it's not going to be the same as when God tells you the truth through him, through his word, through your situation. It's got to come from him, because you can't stand firm on what I tell you. God needs to reveal this to you himself. That's the only way, because once that happens, then you can say, this is what God told me. And no one can steal that from you. But I'm telling you right now, if I tell you This is it. You can't go around saying, Sheila told me this, and I'm standing on what Sheila said. No, that's why I don't tell you these things. You have got to hear it from God. So if you aren't even able to ask God yourself certain situations because you're afraid of what he's going to say, don't put it off. Deal with it. You've got to get to the bottom of this. Okay, because could be where all of this whirlwind of questions and chaos is coming from, is because there's some things that you haven't dealt with. There's some fears you haven't pushed through and gotten to the root of it. Whatever it is, whatever God's answer is going to be, it's going to be okay because he's going to get you through it, right? So if there's something that you're so terrified of hearing from him, he's going to help you through it. He's not going to just dump an answer on you and leave you to process it. Well, you didn't listen to me and you did something I didn't want you to do and now you're on your own. Absolutely not. That is not our Father. That's not him. Okay? But he doesn't want you to be like, nope, I'm not going to God with this. I'm not touching this question because I don't want to hear his answer. I'm afraid of what he's going to say. That's not what he wants either. He wants you to trust him. He wants you to trust in his love, trust in his ability to help you through. So if you get stuck in your head and this is you and you realize, wait a minute, I'm all over the place asking a million questions, trying to figure it out, take the day off. Catch yourself when you're in this place. Take a break. Petition, prayer, thanksgiving. That's where you need to be. Okay? Write all these questions down, hand them to God, and say, God, these are yours. All my questions belong to you. And I'm going to let you answer them if you want to answer them, when you want to answer them. But I'm giving this list of questions to you. And I'm going to trust you that if I'm doing something wrong, you'll let me know. I'm going to trust you that if this is an issue that my spouse has in this area, I'm going to trust that you're going to reveal it to me and then you're going to show me what to pray. And if I'm going to trust that if you say nothing, it's because you just want me to rest in you and get to know you and read the word and just have peace. He doesn't need you to know everything. Okay? He doesn't. You're the one that needs to know everything. And I understand this greatly. I hated not being in the loop. And I would tell that to God every day. I would show up with my little checklist. God, what's on the agenda today? What are we praying for today? What's going on? What are you going to reveal to me? I need to know, God. I need to know now. And you need to tell me, and you need to not be so quiet. Because when you're quiet, God, you're driving me insane. And I had to recognize that about myself. And I had to walk in and say, God, I'm a mess. I've had one too many bowls of Fruit Loops today, and I need to just learn to chill the heck out. That was one of the God's sayings to me all the time. Sheila, get a grip. I still could hear that message when I would come to him in total chaos and confusion. Get a grip, get a grip. And I'd be like, okay, I don't even know what that looks like. What the heck does get a grip? Does that mean get in the word and I would start flipping through pages? No, it meant, Sheila, release it. And I would just sit there and say, God, this is yours. This is yours. And you know what really, really helped me? And I have shared this so many times in my one-on-one mentoring, and I'll talk about that in a minute. A lot of you guys have been reaching out about that, but I'll get to that. I would start saying, God, your son, not God, my husband. There was a humongous shift in me when I would talk to God and say, your son. Because when I went to him and said, God, my husband, my problem, this was my issue, my marriage. But when I said, God, your son, it was like an unloading, a sharing of the burden. Just that one simple exchange of words opened me up to not having to carry the weight of this on my shoulders. Sometimes that's all you need to do when you go to God is say, God, your child, your son, your wife. Share that with him so you understand this is not your responsibility. Because I also, when I said your son, I understood, wait a minute, God loves him more than I do. This is his son. Instead of, God, I'm coming to you with a stranger that you don't know anything about, God, and here's my problems that I'm having with him, and I really need you to help me. That's how I almost was approaching him, like God didn't know anything about my husband. But when I started saying, God, your son, I understand he's your son. I understand how much you love him. I understand how much, he's driving you crazy, like he's driving me crazy with all this. But when I started to talk to him like that, I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't driving you crazy. You already saw this from before you even put us together in marriage. You saw what was coming. None of this is taking you by surprise. It was so comforting to understand that even though I was in a crazy place, even though I wasn't able to handle my feelings and my emotions and get out of my head, it was so comforting to know that, wait a minute, God, you're not being moved. You're not being detoured. You're not in your head. You're not stuck in a place of crazy. I could glean and lean on his stability. I could lean on his security. That's how I got a grip. When I got my eyes off of me and what I was going through, and when I started to really see, wait a minute, God's got this. And I just had to keep talking to myself. Sheila, he's got this. He's got this. Let him have it. Sometimes that's all we really need to do is keep speaking that over ourselves. Trust him. He's got this. This is his child. He loves him. If you don't have all the answers, it's okay. Those are the ways you get a grip and you calm yourself down, right? First, we got to recognize. Sometimes we don't even recognize we're just in a tornado in our minds, right? Snowballing out of control. And that's what drives us to start reaching out and writing these long messages and these long emails. And I'm not trying to shame anybody. If that's you, it's okay. You don't think I didn't do this? Heck, I have journals and journals and journals of this very thing where I would pour out my heart in total. Am I doing this wrong? Am I enabling God? What if I let him get away with this? Am I do just over and over, just pages I poured out to God because I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't have any mentoring, right? I didn't have that. And I would pour this out and I would be like, okay, God, it's your turn. Tell me. And what he would reply with is, get a grip. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Could have just saved myself so much trouble if I had just gotten a grip in the beginning. But it's okay. So if this is you, it is a maturing, it's a learning process. It's starting, you gotta start somewhere, right? To figure out, wait a minute, I'm a mess. And it's sometimes our spouses are so in a mess themselves, right? They're all over the place. 1 minute they're up, 1 minute they're down, 1 minute they're loving, 1 minute they're comforting, 1 minute they're rude, 1 minute they're no contact. And now their tornado and their chaos and their confusion is sucking you in, and that creates your place of losing your peace, losing your mind. So sometimes it's them pulling you in. Sometimes you're doing great and you get a phone call from your mother-in-law or your mom or your dad or your sibling or your best friend, and you get off the phone and oh my gosh, everything just went completely upside down and inside out because their insecurity, their fear, their freaking out is now all over you. They've put you in a place of worry and anxious and doubts and am I doing this wrong? Am I causing this? If I don't kick my spouse out or if I don't go no contact or if I let them do this, now you're in a place of panic because someone else put that on you. Someone else created those places in you. And it's so easy, just as quickly as you got into it, you can get the heck back out of it by resting in God and saying, this is bigger than me. I can't handle this. This is way above me, God. That's giving it to him. And how do you leave it with him? Is every time you realize you just picked it up, hand it back over to him. Okay, so let's get into the mentoring. So, yeah, I put it on hold and I don't know if I'm going to pick it back up. My life is kind of in a whirlwind right now. 3 kids, homework, school just started, the new puppies, the ministry. I'm kind of in a place, I'm not stuck in my head because I put it down and I said, God, this is yours. If you want me to pick the mentoring back up, then we'll do that. But to be honest, every time I've mentored, they're questions that you guys are asking, the problems, the places that we're at, right? There is hope in the word for your problems. There's hope, right? And I'm not bashing mentoring, and I'm not trying to take away from that. But your answers, right? Your answers that you're looking for, you just need to be patient. And trust me, I probably have a video. I probably have an article on our Marriage Revealed website. I've got hundreds and hundreds of articles of every situation that you possibly could, go through, right? I've also done videos, countless numbers of videos. So there are answers. You just have to learn to recognize sometimes when you are in a place of, I need answers right this minute and I need to reach out and I need to get help right now. That desperation is sometimes very telling of where we're at. And we just need to take a break and just rest in God and start to. That's where your growth and your maturity comes from. It's when God is silent and He makes you go learn how to be still and trust Him. And I have an article that I just wrote about that, and it was within this last month or so that I wrote that. Some of the most growing times for me was when God was super quiet and He forced me to lean on what I already knew. So some of that is part of our journey and our walk is really just saying, you know what? I can't keep running to every single person. I can't keep running to look for videos. I can't keep running to find the answers. I need to learn that answers will come when they need to come by God. I need to learn just to be still, rest, figure it out that He loves me and He's going to help me. But it's all in His timing. Okay? So I love you guys and I thank you for supporting our ministry. I thank you for the donations that you guys are sowing into us and helping us. If you want to be a giver, go to our Marriage Revealed website. There is a giving page. We appreciate your generosity, that your love and your support to help us keep going. Thank you so much. Again, please give this video a thumbs up if it blessed you. That is how you help and show support. So God bless you guys. God bless you.